So not only were we a MySpace band, we were pretty young. You know, our youngest members were like 15.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of hate because of that, you know, and we were like, you know, in that phase of like wearing like tight jeans, girl pants, that whole thing, you know. We were kind of in a heavier scene, and so there was still like hardcore bands that weren't really into that at all. It was more like gym shorts, which, you know, is already kind of a thing again. You know, it goes in cycles. But like we got a lot of pushback and hate because of that. I laugh now because I'm just like, every band does that now. I mean, it's already gotten to the point where like people aren't wearing tight pants as much anymore anyways. You know, a lot of the stuff that we dealt with and a lot of the hate we got is like not even a thing anymore. Like people, like if you're a young band coming up, you're not going to get any of that, you know? And so sometimes I'm like, man, I'm a grumpy old man. Like, I'm like, you guys, like, I feel like my dad, and, you know, I'm just like, you guys didn't pay your dues. Like, you just like, and the funny thing is, people were telling us the same thing, that we didn't pay our dues, which we didn't at the time.
You're on stage, you're playing shows, you're going on tours, and they're like, you haven't paid your dues. It's like, I'm doing it right now. This is what, this is the dues. I'm here today to do that.
Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR. And now for our feature presentation.
Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you from Adobe Radio. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie.
Lizzie, we have an episode today.
We do, and you took this one on again as well when it comes
to
your interviews.
Hand to fist, I took it on. But I took this one on. This is an interview with Daniel Stillman of Drop Dead Gorgeous, new EP called Sink Your Teeth. They got 3 new songs out. This is a band from like 20 years ago that I listened to a bit back in the day. I think this is a new band for you that you just learned about.
It's not completely new because I've known of them because of friends who listened to them when I was younger, but I never got into them. And then I had that one shirt that you gave me.
Yeah, I gave you an old band shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just like immediately was like, this is a band similar to a lot of the other Warped Tour bands that, you know, we talk about all the time. But there's something different. There's something here. Something about this band that just feels different than a lot of these other bands. We talk a lot about both like the scene back in the day, 20 years ago. We talk about Warped Tour. We talk a little bit about AI and how like songwriting and music is going to be changed by that. Super friendly guy, and hopefully we have him on again. They'll be at Warped Tour all year, so we'll see them then.
And we will also be at Warped Tour all year.
Yeah, we're also going to be at C2E2 if you're in Chicago, March 27th, Friday.
The Friday that we are there. We're going to be talking about emo music and comic books, 3 p.m.
We're on a side quest arc. If you want to find out more about it, where can they find us on the internet, Lizzie?
They can find us over on Instagram at Emo Social Club and on TikTok at Emo Social Club X.
And you can find a full video version of this episode on our YouTube channel at Emo Social Club and at Emo Social Club Podcast or something like that. You'll find it. Just search Emo Social Club on anywhere you get your podcast. And let's jump into the episode with Stills. Here we go. I'm unfortunately really meticulous with this shit, and I'm finding out that like I'm kind of the only one that does it as meticulously as I do. Like,
I'm the same way. I like have a studio, I produce stuff, so it's like I am the same way. I back everything up, and I want all the individual tracks, as many, you know, I know how it works. Like the more stuff you have, the more you can like edit, control, fix things if you want to. So
I had to refresh myself on your history because as a fan from 20 years ago, I was like, this is a band that I have not kept up with, is what they've done, you know, since the band, you know, went on hiatus or however you want to call it. And I noticed that like when it came to production and everything that the band like musically was making, you were not only the vocalist, but you were also involved in like a lot of the other stuff that was like being heard on the records.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where that like meticulousness and the production side of it comes from?
Yeah, man. I mean, I just like when I started off making music before Drop Dead, it's like I usually was like a one-man band or something because I couldn't ever find people. When you're young, it's like you're in high school, nobody really wants to be serious about anything. So it's like I'd be writing bass, playing bass, like recording it all myself, that type of thing, and drums and all that kind of stuff. And then I finally found like, you know, a band that actually could play instruments well and like actually, you know, do their own thing and not just pull their own weight, but actually elevate the stuff that I wanted to do. And yeah, so I mean, that's kind of how it happened. I don't know. I've just always kind of liked the the production and honestly like the engineering side of things. So like when we record, I'm always like nerding out with the producer or the engineer and like, oh cool, like oh what mic is this? Like because I have a lot of that stuff now anyways, but like even when I didn't, I was like, what mic are you using, what preamp, what compressor, all the different stuff. And there's a lot to that, you know, like performance is everything. Writing songs is super important, and you could take bad gear and bad production, and if it's a great song, it's a great song. But I think if you have a great song and the right production that fits the tone and everything, I mean, it makes a big difference, you know. And like being a band for as long as we have, like looking back on our old records, they sound pretty good for the time, but it's like it's hard for me because I'm like, man, like we could make it sound so much better nowadays, you know. But like, you know, fans like it, like they like the rawness, I think, more than honestly, probably more than I do. But I'm always fighting myself to make it raw and not overproduce it because it's so easy. You have all the tools these days to like way overproduce stuff. So
yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask about In Vogue, because like I listened back to it and I think the same thing I thought when I saw you guys on Warped Tour. I think that year I was like side stage for some reason, and I was like watching you guys, and I was like, the music and the performance, it feels, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I mean it like messy and like dirty.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
And it has a little bit of like grit to it, and it immediately was like, wait, I like that, because it doesn't feel as polished as a lot of other bands. Not to throw Attack under the bus or anything, I love Attack, but I'm like, a band doing electronics and hardcore and these the high pitched singing and all this stuff all together in one package, but Drop Dead Gorgeous feels dangerous, and I like that. And I wanted to, that immediately brought me into like, oh, what does this band do, and how does this band make their music? But it's like, it's not messy in like a damn this sucks. It's a messy in like, this is cool and interesting. But then, and I got to tell you this, because like in Daniel Where's the Boat, that second chorus where everything drops out and it's like lights will ignite us and the synths are going, I'm like, damn, this is beautiful. Like this is amazing. And to walk that line of like that production where you're saying like it is something we made in 2006 and maybe we can make better now. But I listen to it and I go, no, that's perfect as it is, because it is that like dynamic between the dirty and the beautiful.
Yeah, and that's like something that as we've come back, we were trying to, you know, figure out and like kind of like, you know, toe the line balance between not being super dated. Like, you know, we could, I mean, honestly, it'd be hard to record the same method that we used to back in the day. That just, people don't do that anymore. But you know, like I said, it's tempting to overproduce. It's so easy to do it. And it's almost like you get really self-conscious if you don't these days, because you're like, oh, this sounds really sick. It's kind of raw. Like we intentionally like made it a little bit raw. And then you put on like an Architects or Bring Me the Horizon record and you're like, oh, dude, this doesn't even like stand up to that at all. So it's like, it's kind of like, you know, the guys that are, the bands that are playing arenas and stuff, it's like they kind of set the tone a little bit. It's not like, when we were putting out In Vogue, it was like Underoath was setting the tone. And at the time, like their records sounded crazy good. And they still do. I still love them. But like compared to modern production, it would be considered raw, I think, to today's standards. Like To Find the Great Line, which when it came out was like, oh my God, this sounds like ridiculous. Like the drum tones, the guitar, everything sounded so ridiculous. And it was all real, which I think is why it was so cool. Nowadays, you can, you know, the contrast between like what records sound like nowadays, it sounds kind of raw. But, you know, that was like Chris Lord-Alge mixing it, Matt Goldman producing it with Adam D. And so you had like the dream team, you know?
Yeah.
And it sounded so good. So yeah, we're always like fighting our own like insecurities. Like, you know, as a musician, you know, when I hear something and it sounds a little off, it's like, does an average person even notice it? Where I will, like, I'm like, oh, should I tune that more? Should we edit that more? You know, it's like, I'm always fighting that. You know, Daniel Where's the Boat, you know, you mentioned that song. That actually was the one song other than like the secret track that wasn't even really written. There's like a couple ideas like instrumentally, and we kind of put it together last minute in the studio, and like that entire like chorus melody was like literally just on accident. Like I was just like, I was kind of just riffing and I didn't even have lyrics to it. And I actually think I did say Lights Will Ignite Us, just kind of like sometimes like when you're singing melodies, like the first thing that pops in your head, you just say it. And so like I said that, I sang it and did the lyrics. And then like I was like 18. I barely knew how to sing back then. And like I had a really hard time trying to re-sing it. Because like the scratch track was obviously not good enough. And so like Chris, the producer, was like, yeah, no, here's the note. This is what you're supposed to sing. And I just like could not get like the final note of that. Like Lights Will Ignite Us, like the us. I just like my brain would not work. I couldn't do it. I didn't know scales or anything. So I was like, I just don't know how to sing this note, even though I did it on accident. So it's funny how that works, man. Like most of our favorite songs are usually written in the studio, like, and they're usually like, oh, like we need one more song type of thing. And it's so funny because we prepare with all our other songs and, you know, demo them, do tons of pre-production, try to refine it as much as possible. And like usually the best stuff is like written in the studio, pretty raw because we don't have time to like overproduce it or overthink it. We just like do it and we're like, okay.
And sometimes those are the songs that hit the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's like you hear about like, you know, Phil Collins, you know, In the Air at Night was like, you tracked that on the console mic.
Yeah.
And, you know, inside the control room. And there was like, nope, that's it. You know, like there's like, I don't know if you're a Nirvana fan, but like Under the Bridge is like, I think he recorded that in the control room as well with like a crappy guitar that was slightly out of tune that was missing a string or something like that. Because like Butch Vig was like, he was just playing it in the background when they were working on a different song. And he's like, wait, hold on. I think he just stopped everything, threw a mic and just tracked it, you know? So sometimes, man, like you got to capture that, you know?
You've been there for like weeks writing a bunch of stuff. And then it's like, just now in that moment, just something comes out and you're like, yep, that's the one that's going to resonate the most with everybody.
Yes. Every single song I've written, whether it's in the studio, on the spot, or just in general, is always the best ones are the ones that come like right away. Like every single song, even in different bands that has been the most like popular, has always been the fastest song that was like almost right off the bat. Like no struggling with it. No like, oh, should we rework this part? Should we rework the chorus or whatever? It's like all my stuff, it's like my best stuff is like I either get it or I don't.
I want to talk about like the history because now it's like we're 20 years from In Vogue, coming to the 20-year anniversary, but also you have new music and you have all this stuff. So I want to kind of like build our, you know, timeline from back then to now. And I know that like a lot of the stuff from that time was MySpace, and like Drop Dead Gorgeous was kind of considered like this MySpace band at the time. I don't know how like you look back at that like 20 years later and see, you know, now there's bands where I'm like, this is clearly a TikTok band. Yeah. But I don't know if I look at like, to me, the only MySpace band is Millionaires and maybe like Jeffree Star. Cause like, I don't know, but I just saw you guys at Warped Tour, like kind of on a whim. And I was like, this had nothing to do. Like, I didn't see you guys on MySpace before. I just saw you at Warped Tour. So like, how do you look at like that legacy of being considered a MySpace band back in 2006?
You know, that's kind of interesting. Like it doesn't seem to have the stigma it did when we were like fresh and new. Cause when we started to, you know, get a lot of buzz, we got like on a label and then a major label pretty quickly. You know, there's a lot of like older bands and stuff that have been doing it forever that obviously were kind of like thrown back by that. They're like, yeah, they're just like this MySpace band. It's all about the MySpace and nothing else, you know? Which, I mean, honestly, it's like you got to market yourself some way, right? So I think that, I mean, if you have a problem with the music, go ahead and knock the music, right? And if you're only big because of MySpace, then that's a fair argument. But if your argument is that we got big off of MySpace, I don't know what the argument really is. And same thing with TikTok or whatever. If your music is good, however you get big, you know, good for you. Like, especially if you do it without a major label or a label at all, which nowadays it's as easy as ever to do that, which is, we were kind of one of the earlier bands. There was definitely other bands before us that had like made a career off of MySpace and gotten signed, but we were fairly early on there. And like, we kind of knew like the little tips and tricks, and like, we would like, back then it was like bulletins or whatever. So we would like tell, you know, we had like, I don't even know, like start off like a couple thousand fans or whatever. And we'd be like, we'd give them the code for our song. like the HTML code, and we'd be like, put this on your MySpace page. And that was a huge hack because like we went from like unknown to just like being on the top 10 pretty quickly because of that. And it was kind of a little hack, and you can't do stuff like that anymore. But so we would do stuff like that. But like nowadays there's so many other social media platforms, so it's hard to compare it to like modern day standards. But so not only were we a MySpace man, we were pretty young. You know, our youngest members were like 15.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of hate because of that, you know, and we were like, you know, in that phase of like wearing like tight jeans, girl pants, that whole thing, you know, and we were kind of in a heavier scene. And so there was still like a lot of the like hardcore bands that weren't really into that at all. It was more like gym shorts, cargo pants, which, you know, is already kind of a thing again, you know, it goes in cycles. But like we got a lot of pushback and hate because of that. I laugh now because I'm just like, every band does that now. I mean, it's already gotten to the point where like people aren't wearing tight pants as much anymore anyways. You know, a lot of the stuff that we dealt with and a lot of the hate we got is like not even a thing anymore. Like people, like if you're a young band coming up, you're not going to get any of that, you know? And so sometimes I'm like, man, I'm a grumpy old man. Like, I'm like, you guys, like, I feel like my dad, you know, I'm just like, you guys didn't pay your dues. Like, you just like, you know. And the funny thing is, people were telling us the same thing, that we didn't pay our dues, which we didn't at the time.
I always found that weird because it's like you're on stage, you're playing shows, you're going on tours, and they're like, you haven't paid your dues. It's like, I'm doing it right now. This is this is the dues. I'm here today to do that.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, I think a lot of people, at least back in the day, I can't speak for like bands these days, but it's like back then it was like, paying your dues for them was like, you need to be on the road for 2 years minimum, playing in front of, like at VFWs, playing in front of very little people until they consider you paying your dues, because that was the story they had or something, you know? So like, I think that's the perspective they have. And nowadays it's like, I don't even think you can pay your dues as much because, I mean, you have to have a decent amount of buzz and a following to even afford to go on tour these days. It's gotten so expensive, and like there aren't CDs anymore. So all your money is coming from like Spotify and merch sales and maybe some publishing if you're real lucky, depending on your genre. But it's like, yeah, man, like I don't know how you can really, I guess you could play local shows and pay your dues for several years or something. But
I feel like if the opportunity is there to take advantage of a new platform, TikTok, MySpace, and reach new audiences, and like you're an older person who has like paid their dues, quote unquote, and you see these kids like using the internet to play their version of your music to a new audience, I don't know, to get mad at that is like, there's always going to be a new thing, and there's always going to be a new vehicle or platform where there's going to be kids who want new stuff. They don't want, you know, the older bands that have already played. I can't think of any good examples off the head, but I'm like, you know, there's going to be younger bands that are playing to their demographic, you know, like 17-year-old kids that are on TikTok now who want fans that are their age. And it's like, why are we mad at them for using the opportunity they have just to live out a dream that we want for it feels like I didn't get it, so they don't deserve it. And I'm like, no, everybody deserves it if they can get it. And you know, a rising tide lifts all boats type thing.
You know, in the early stages, there was only MySpace. So I feel like they did feel a little cheated. But nowadays, when there's like a new social media platform that pops up next week or something, I don't feel like anyone's getting cheated. Everybody knows that social media is the way to promote. You know what I mean? Like, I think that when we were doing, it's like that people felt we cut in line or something.
Yeah.
And I felt that. Like, I felt like guilty, and like I didn't like seeing the fact that like some of even bands that I loved, like I felt like we were kind of like having an edge over that specifically because of MySpace and basically technology, you know, and then at the same time, when we got older, before we even went on hiatus, we started to see the tides turn, you know? And so I understand like the frustration when you're on the road for several years, and then there's always going to be that band that pops up out of nowhere that has a ton of buzz, and you know, if people like it and it's new and it's fresh, they're going to be absolutely drawn to it. And that's just how it is. Any band that's been doing it long enough, I don't care who you are, if you're like the greatest band in the world, they've either seen that already or they're going to experience it, where there's going to be that new band, you know, the shiny toy or whatever. And that's just kind of how it is. And if you really love music, you just keep playing it and hope that people keep liking it, you know? And it's like, and if you don't love it, then you're going to be real disappointed, you know, because like you're not always going to be that shiny toy no matter who you are.
When you were developing this sound in 2006, and I know you mentioned like some bands that you loved that were then giving you, you know, that reaction, what were some of the artists that gave you that inspiration to create your sound? Which I think there's not a lot of bands that sound exactly like Drop Dead Gorgeous. So I'm wondering how like you developed that sound out of what was around at the time, or like where some of your influences came from.
What made it unique is that we all had similar influences, but we all had our own little things that we liked more, you know? Like I kind of so Drop Dead was my first heavy band that I was in. Like I was kind of like experimenting in like the heavier screamo type of thing. Or I guess you'd even post-hardcore. Like I like started off with the more pop punk influences. Well, I mean, I went from when I was really young to like Nirvana to like the Blink-182s, the Newfound Glories, and then then I started to get darker, like Alkaline Trio and like
hell yeah,
stuff like that. No Use for a Name, like stuff like that. And then Taking Back Sunday started to come into the fold, and Brand New and bands like that, and like that whole like, you know, East Coast emo scene, and like so I started to really get into that. You know, Taking Back Sunday would get a little bit of screaming here or there, but I wouldn't say a ton. But like the crossover for me was like Finch, What Is to Burn, and like The Used. Those two, and like A Static Lullaby was a big one too, like their first album. Those like really pulled me into it. And so I was like, I got to learn how to scream. And I just spent forever trying to learn how to scream, and it never sounded like these guys, didn't sound like the record or anything. Eventually I just got it. I met Kyle like at a show, like it was like a hardcore show, a local hardcore show. And like, they were just like, we're looking for a screamer. And I was like, I'll try, you know, like, I was like, I'll try it out. And so I did it. And they're like, cool, this is sweet. And I'm like, sweet, I guess I'm a screamer now, you know? Like, that's what I really wanted to be. So I was like, cool. Me coming into it out of a different realm and not like being super ingrained in the scene probably made it a little bit different, just because I have slightly different influences. Like I wasn't listening to like Hatebreed or something, or Converge, which I really like Converge, but at the time I wasn't. And they were listening to similar stuff, but they were a little bit heavier into the metalcore scene, because there was like some metalcore bands around their area that were like kind of popping off. So they kind of brought that into it. And then I was just like, yeah, this is cool. And we kind of just like went with it, you know? And like, I think that like forced me to be a little bit more like melodic singy than some bands in that genre were. Especially with like the breakdowns. Like Underoath was doing the screamo heavy with singing, but They're Only Chasing Safety didn't have like, you know, chugging breakdowns or something. So like for us, it was like, okay, I guess we'll kind of like throw some chugs, breakdowns, some like discords, little Norma Jean influence, Every Time I Die. And then we'll also have like some Me Without You kind of stuff, which is like where I get like the more like spoken word type of stuff that I used to do, at least on In Vogue. And we kind of just threw it all together and it's like tried to make it work, you know? And we were just like, this is pretty cool, and played shows, and we're like, people are kind of into this, you know? And we were just like, back then we didn't have, you know, a laptop. Like you could make demos so easy now. Like we actually didn't have the ability to second guess it. I think that was the biggest thing, is like we couldn't hear recorded what we actually really sounded like. Like nowadays, because we probably would have heard it and like, this is stupid. Like this sucks. Like, this doesn't even sound good. It doesn't even make sense. Like, what are we doing here? But like, I think we were just all like excited playing in a basement and then playing it live. And like, I think nowadays, like the biggest drawback to modern like technology is that you can, you know, hear this stuff early on in the process and then want to change it and overthink it or just throw it out, you know? So like we struggle with that now. It's like, we don't even play it in a room before we write it and demo it out. So it's kind of a different process. And maybe that's why, like, when we write in the studio, like a last minute song nowadays is why they tend to turn out really good, is because, like, it's the closest, like, resemblance to, like, how we used to write songs. Like, we are all, you know, remote. Like, our guitar player's in Utah. I live in the Springs, Colorado Springs, and, like, the other two members live in Denver. So everything we do is, like, remote for the most part. I've been thinking about that a lot because people have asked in a lot of interviews, like, you know, what's the difference between writing 20 years ago or writing now, or like how is the process for writing your, you know, In Vogue or whatever record versus now? And like that's the biggest thing, is now it's more remote. There's some advantages to writing remote because you can kind of you can kind of really have tunnel vision and stick to whatever it is your vision is for the song and not be distracted by anyone else, which sometimes can be a good thing. But when you write together and how we used to write, it's like it's easier to like vibe off of each other and feel, and like you could literally visually see, like when I try something vocally and I see people's reactions and like, yeah, or they're like, no,
Yeah.
you know, when you're doing it by yourself, you just kind of do it and you're just blank. Like you have no idea. Like all you know is what you like. And so you send it, and sometimes it's like stuff that you thought was really cool. They're like, no, I don't really like this. And stuff you didn't like as much. They're like, actually, I do like this part. It's really weird because like, especially as a vocalist, I hate my own voice. So like, I try to make it sound the least awful as possible. That's my goal. When I used to write with other people, it's like I would just like sing something and they would be like, that's awesome. But like if I'm writing it by myself, chances are half the time I wouldn't even thought that was cool at all, and I would have moved on to a new idea. There's a lot of that goes on. It's crazy, man. And then technology is just moving so fast because now you have like all the AI tools and like all this crazy stuff, and it's like that is a fast moving like thing right now, you know.
It's funny to me that the Postal Service, their entire like marketing thing was like, we would send our CDs to each other to like have the tracks on it, and we would work with it like through the mail, and like that was their big thing. And it's like, what a quaint idea that you would have to like ship the tracks that you recorded to somebody else via the Postal Service, and now it's like, nah, you recorded this here, it's in Dropbox right now.
Yeah, I mean, even that is like kind of a pain.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine mailing it back and forth. So it's like, once again, it's similar to modern day, like how we're writing remotely, but it's in a way more rigid way, because like you can only do so many edits that way unless you want to spend like 10 years writing a song. So it's like, you kind of have to do your best.
Yeah.
And there's just more finality back in the day, you know? And like when we were doing it, there was even less finality than when they used to record to tape. And then like you look at some of the best records ever written on tape, like I really think it's like the finality and the when you have too much ability to edit and overproduce, I think generally, other than like EDM and specifically like really produced genres, that's like the sound, I think it's almost better to not have that ability and just come up with the songs, and the good ones will prevail and the other ones will just, you know, fall to the wayside. But nowadays it's just like, if you have an idea, you can record it right now, put it up on TikTok in an hour. It could either be garbage or it could be the best song of 2026. So it's like, it's a very weird scene coming from where I used to do it. Like, It's just so different now.
You know, one of my favorite bands is Enter Shikari. And I remembered like in the early 2010s, like they would put out like a couple songs here and there. They do some remixes, and they would just like put out like little, you know, singles every so often. And I thought at the time that was really weird because like, well, there's no album. Like, why are you putting out this song? Like, what is this attached to? And then more artists started doing that. And I was like, oh, this is the new way of doing it. And then, you know, you put out like 10 singles and then it's like, here's a record 5 years later. But I realized like, oh, that's a really good way of getting feedback for the art that you're making, the music you're making. And like, hey, we tried this. Does our fan base fuck with this, or do they hate this? Like, cool. Well, that song's just going to go by the wayside. And I do think there's some benefit, you know, in the same way MySpace gives an opportunity to anyone to market their music, or TikTok gives an opportunity to market your music. Like, there's also that opportunity to get that feedback on your art from more people and see like what works and what doesn't for you, and what you like and what's resonating and who's your audience a little bit faster without having to like put a bunch of money behind it, go to a studio, make, you know, a giant production out of something where you're like, I kind of just want to release the song. I like it. I think it's good. I hope my audience likes it. If they don't, that's okay. We'll never play it live or whatever.
Nowadays, super common, you know, and it's like, it's great, especially if you don't have a lot of budget or you're not signed or something. It's like, it really sucks if you take a gamble and like you think a certain style is going to be it for your band.
You wrote 12 songs and here's the record, and it's like, fuck,
people
nobody likes it.
Yeah, the whole feedback is like, oh, this isn't heavy enough, or I wish there was more singing or hooks, and you're like, great, well, I just recorded 12 songs. I do like that a lot. And it's interesting when fans are like, oh, are you guys going to do an album or an EP? For me, I'm just like, I guess I have a different perspective. I'm like, unless it's like a concept album or something, I just don't understand why it matters if it's an EP or an album or not. It's more like, are you going to record more songs? You know, like what's the amount of songs that you're going to put out? I don't know. Like, to me, an album is cool. I mean, if you're a huge fan of a band and they drop 10 songs or 15 or whatever, like, it's obviously great. It's like when they drop your favorite show and they put out all episodes at the same time versus one at a time. I don't know. Like, it's nice to have it all and you can binge it. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think in today's world, it's almost better for most bands, unless you're like literally one of the biggest bands, to just put a song out at a time, get some feedback, you know, see what people are thinking, kind of take that back to the lab and like put out more songs and try to figure out what that sound is that, you know, people are gravitating towards. And then not only that, but people don't lose track of you in the sea of a million songs. Like if you put out 10 songs, chances are they're going to gravitate towards one song anyways. And now you just wasted 9 songs, except for, you know, your super fans are going to actually really listen to the whole album and everything you put out. But, you know, a lot of bands, you know, you look online and they have tons of listeners, but there's only a small percentage of those listeners that are like going to actually listen to the entire album anyway. So I don't know, man. It's definitely a different world. Like, it's not like people buy it at one time either, you know?
Yeah.
They're streaming it anyways.
Yeah,
too,
they're
so
streaming
like,
it. So they're not really.
buying.
Yeah, it's not going to the store and buying the whole record. It's listening to the songs you like, and I guess it is like I hate to use the term data when I'm talking about music because it's like, you know, I know like a band is going to decide where they tour because usually a band comes through and they're like, our biggest. I live in Chicago, so they're like, our biggest city on Spotify is always Chicago, and every band says this, and I'm like, I feel like it's true, but I also feel like it's a lie. But I'm like, obviously, if there's a difference of how many people listen to a band in a certain city, that's going to determine what they decide to do. So I guess there is like data behind all of this. And then you're like looking at your record and you're like, well, these songs have a lot of streams. These songs don't. And then, you know, maybe like one stands out that it's like, oh, we didn't even think anything about that. And now we're going to throw it in the set. And I'm like, I guess like there's benefits to that, but I also hate the like kind of coldness of now we're just looking at numbers where art is supposed to be and how we're supposed to like present our art to real people as like numbers on a screen.
Dude, I completely can relate to that. It's hard. Yeah. Like when you put out songs and you're like your happiness or whatever is like, like just numbers, like, oh, well, how many streams did it get or how many downloads is it getting? And then next week you look at the trends, like, is it going up or down? If it goes down 5%, like, it's just like everything is, yeah, it's all like algorithm based and like percentages. And it's, I mean, in one instance, it got me thinking when you said, like, when you drop an album, one upside of dropping an album is you get, if you put out 10 songs, let's say you have 10 songs done and you want to put them out one at a time, you're always playing that guessing game. What song should we release next? What do we think is the best song out of these 10, whatever? Put them all out at once, you know, right away. Mm-hmm. Like you'll know within a week, like, oh, this is the song that people like, you know? So that's your single, I guess. But yeah, it wasn't really like that when we used to drop stuff. Like we would like, I guess looking back on it, our songs that were biggest would be the ones that we like put on I think you had like a top 3 or something songs you could put on MySpace. I can't remember, but
people figured out with coding, and I did not learn coding at that time. But yeah, you could have like playlist on your feed. But I think it was 3 sounds right,
something like that. And so like, I mean, we just guessed, I guess, based off live performances, like what people seem to like. Yeah. So that was our top 3, and naturally those got the most streams. But yeah, who knows? Back in the day, if we had all of them up at the same time, maybe a different song would have been it. Maybe Daniel Where's the Boat could have been it on In Vogue. Who knows? You know, it's like...
Listen, that's the song that caught me right away. So if just me, I'd be like, hey, that's the song.
I like that. I've always really liked that song a lot. It was always really difficult for me to sing live and stuff, but I've always liked the song. It's just a fun song, and that's a good one. But yeah, like back in the day, if we put all 10 out, maybe that would have been one of the top ones. Who knows? It's really weird. And like, I feel like technology obviously is like exponentially growing. So like, you know, it's been 20 years since we put out In Vogue. I feel like a brand new band that's out right now in 5 years is going to be like, maybe it feels like it was 20 years already compared to like the difference that's happened for us as a band. You know, from 2026 to like 2031 or whatever, people are going to be like, new bands might be like, man, 5 years ago, yeah, we were still actually writing music before like AI wrote everything for us and we were just doing prompts, you know? It's like, that's a real possibility. And then it's
Prompting band.
like, is that going to be a thing? Like, I mean, people hated autotune when it came out, you know, like they genuinely hated it. And so it's like, is it going to be like that where like 5 years from now, like some bands are writing their own stuff, but the majority of them aren't. And then it's like, is it ethical or is it not ethical? Like as a listener, are you like not cool because you're listening to AI bands, or like as a band, are you not cool because you're using AI? Like, I don't know. It's like a very...
If I were to speak on that, I would say I think that the audience is always going to want the human connection of the live experience. And people said about like synths too, like having electronics in your sound, especially in like this scene. You're never going to be able to replicate that on stage. They're just playing the tracks and all this stuff. But eventually people didn't really care. They're like, you know what? I'm hearing these electronics on stage and the whole song is there and the singer's singing and the guitarist is playing guitar. The drummer is like, you know, everything is happening live. The people that I've listened to are there. The people I've seen in the music videos are right there. That experience I don't think will ever go away, and a robot is never going to like be able to replicate that experience. I think if people do like that, personally, I'm like, maybe you like are a little stupid. But
well, the tricky thing is like, what if you hear a song and you hear it on Spotify? Because I've seen people talking about this, and they're like genuinely like getting pissed off because they're wanting to figure out how they know something's AI or not, because they don't necessarily always know. I mean, you kind of can. Most people are figuring this out by going on like a Spotify thing and being like, oh, they have like 50 songs they released in the last like month. You know what I mean? And like they just seem fake from other reasons. But that's like the question is like, if you hear a song, you don't know it's AI and you connect with it or something.
Which
like,
you can.
What do you do then? You know, like what if you're like, I really like this song, you find out it's AI and you're like, can I like this? Like, should I like this? Like, you know, it's like weird like that.
That's why I think there's two things I think that are going to be really big going forward then is curation. So a human person that's like, I know this band or I like this band or I've heard of this band. You guys should also hear it, so that it's like somebody being that filter of like, this is not just some bullshit. But I also think then more like human visual like creation. Your video like, for 6 feet, I was like, the music video is back. This looks sick. Right. And it's like, you watch that and you go, okay, that's art. Like that wasn't just something thrown together. That it doesn't give me the sense that a person didn't make this, right? It gives me the sense that like someone had a creative idea and the song behind it is great and the visuals are great. And I think that you won't lose that, you know, like you're going to see that and go, that is a band, that is an artist I can see in reality and see in a live venue. Yeah,
it just gets tricky because the actual writing process of it is getting so good. Like it's kind of scary how good it's become. And it's like, me as a musician, I'm like, dang, man. If someone can like generate a song in 30 seconds from a prompt and it's pretty darn good.
I mean,
it's scaring a lot of people in the industry. Like, dang, man.
Yeah. Well, like, I also want to say that I heard, you know, this EP you put out, there's a lot of bands that have come back and they're kind of just doing the same to me. And this is no shade to anybody at all, but like, they're kind of doing the same, like Bring Me the Horizon, Bad Omens, like Octane Radio, like this sort of lane of like, this is working in the industry and we're just going to kind of like do that. And when I heard like your guys' new stuff, I'm like, it sounds like updated Drop Dead Gorgeous, but it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like you're doing these bands that are in this lane and you're like, let's also get in that lane. So I think that like even AI is going to eventually just copy the lane that is the most popular and say, I want Bad Omens, and it gives you Bad Omens. But I don't think like a band like yours could create, like, it's not going to go, give me Drop Dead Gorgeous does Bad Omens. It's going to go,
you're right. It's not as like advanced, and I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever be that specific, but I think it is getting good enough to where it can make a pretty generic thing, you know, like if you want like a pop song and you want it to sound like, you know, pop that's out right now, it's pretty good at it. It's like shockingly good at it. And I'm like, dang, man, like a computer can do that. But yeah, you're right. Like the nuances of like, like Drop Dead mixed with something else, or like, you know, these things have things where like you can adjust like the weirdness.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure you'd have to turn the weirdness up for Drop Dead or something. And like, if they don't have a rawness function, but I'm sure eventually they will, that type of thing, but, or experimental or whatever. But I don't know. It's like, the thing is, like, experimental for a computer, it has a hard time like quantifying that or whatever, you know. It's like, it's not like zeros and ones, whereas like pop structure kind of is, like, things harmonize with certain things. When you're talking about dissonance, unless it starts to figure out that dissonance is essentially the opposite and the antithesis of pop, it could start coming up with some somewhat interesting things. I don't know what that would sound like, but it's like, I don't know, man. Yeah, it sucks that a computer can do that, and like, we're just getting very reliant, you know, on AI and computers and ChatGPT. And like, you know, I use a lot of ChatGPT like outside of music for all kinds of things that makes my life easier, you know. But
I think it's a great tool. Like, I've used it a lot for coding things. If I'm like, I've built a home server, I'm like, I don't really know how to do some of this stuff, so help me build this home server. But I'm like, no, I don't. I fucked around with Suno for a while and made some like funny songs for me and my friends. And then, having studied music theory in my life, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's the same pattern every time. And now I can like hear a song that I'm like, clearly this was made by AI because it's the same pattern. It's like this many beats. And a lot of people using it don't know theory. They don't know how to write a song. They don't know to like switch some stuff up here and there to keep an audience interested. They're like, no, it just does these 4 measures and then these 4 measures and then these 4 measures. It's like, okay, I hear it now. I think a lot of people will start to catch on to like the same patterns, and, you know, seeing a person just play an acoustic guitar will become this like novelty.
It's honestly interesting because like, yeah, AI highlighted to me like Suno and stuff, like how formulated pop music actually is. And I think what it's forcing actual big pop artists to do now is to push the boundaries and mix it up more, because if they don't, they will be replaced by AI, because it has their number. Like, it knows how to write like a Justin Bieber song from like a couple of years ago. It can do it all day. Lyrically, no. That's the one thing. You got to write the lyrics. It's not good at lyrics, but like, it literally can like write a banger, but it's just not going to be the most current thing today. I think it's forcing pop artists. They're like, well, I mean, if we don't start pushing the boundaries and getting honestly kind of more experimental, then Suno's going to start putting stuff out, and just anybody can release songs all day with that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and then like with TikTok, they don't need a major label. There's no gatekeeping anymore. Like, you could literally not know anything about music and write a couple lyrics and throw it on TikTok and have a good marketing scheme.
That's the other thing. Bands, artists need to start doing behind the scenes videos in the studio.
No, you're right. Because like, if you can show that you're making it, then that kind of shows you're authentic, and that could be the thing. That's like your like ability to have a real fan base, and like there'll probably be some people that like the AI, but less. You know.
Listen, I don't know this for sure, so I always have to preface this because I'm like, I don't know who's going to listen to this, but like the new A Day to Remember record, I'm like, I feel like there was maybe a little ChatGPT going on in the studio there. And I'm like, this sounds a little formulaic. This sounds a little boring to me. It's not for me. People like it. Sure. Great. But I'm like, maybe you show some video of, you know, your process in the studio. And then it's like, so I just typed it into ChatGPT, goes in the video, and it's like, no, Jeremy, no, stop writing your lyrics with that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what their process is, but I do know they had a lot of writers and a lot of different musicians. Like, if you look at the cover, you can see that there's like 1 million people on that record. Yeah. So that could be what makes it feel that way, potentially.
And I certainly hope so. I just,
it's hard to say.
Yeah, but I hope that it's not like we had, 100 people come through and like write on all these different songs, but it's like, well, it came out sounding like Suno, so maybe you didn't need that
thing, man. Like, that's what I'm talking. Like, AI is getting pretty good, and people are almost getting influenced by it. It's like it's getting to the point where it's going to be hard to tell. Yeah, unless you actually know firsthand or something. It's like. And there's also that, you could take a Suno idea and make it better. You absolutely could do that. Like, you could take a basic, like, just the generic patterns they do and try to make it a little cooler. Spice up the chords, do some things to make it cooler. You could always do that, but I mean, I think the biggest thing is like when you're using Suno and you're not even singing and you're literally just having them generate a song for you, that's, I think, when I think of AI, that's like, I don't think that we're at the point where that's going to replace songs at all, because I feel like I can tell when it's an AI singer, but
Oh yeah.
they usually will. It's just like anything with AI is like they say a word weird, and you're like, that's not how a human would normally say that, or something weird like that, or
And
a
then
weird breath.
go into the next step and be like, who is this person? Let me see their face. Let me see them singing it. Let me see how they, then your natural human eye can determine like that's a real person. And I think most people will get there because with that much stuff, just the AI slop coming out, like eventually people will get tired of it. And I think people will move on from it. The people who are creating it will go, you know what? This actually isn't giving me the results that I want. So I'm going to step back from making all of this shit music.
I guess if you're not making it and you truly like music, you're eventually going to be like, why am I doing this? This is like, the whole reason I make music is to be creative. And if I'm not making it, why am I even doing it? I guess would be the hope for most people. I think some people theorize that like Spotify is just going to, their idea is that they're going to be able to like put out songs that can be platinum or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it's AI generated, they don't have to pay anybody. They don't have to pay an artist other than for them to perform it or something, you know? So I think that's the only thing that could potentially be a problem. But
somebody who doesn't care about music deciding the business of music is
right.
Kind of this history of the music industry, I guess, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's
but
how
I mean, like
been.
if fans don't like it,
if the fans don't fuck with it, then yeah, it'll be like, oh, let's move on to something else. I have a couple other things here, and I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to say the other song that really caught my ear and got me into you guys was Two Birds, One Stone from the Underworld soundtrack. And I don't know if anyone else has asked you about this.
No, you're the only one that I think that knows that exists. It's crazy. Like
the thing is, I didn't even know there was a non-remix version of it. For some reason, I thought that was the only version of it that existed was on the Underworld soundtrack. And I was like, damn, this song rules. This song is so good. And then literally last year, I was like off on YouTube, like algorithmically, it just said, here's Drop Dead Gorgeous, Two Birds, One Stone. I'm like, this is the remix version. And listen to that and I go, oh, this song goes hard as fuck. I wish this band came back. And then next week, announcements started coming out from you guys.
That's crazy. A lot of people mentioned that. It's like, it's so weird how the universe works or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Two Birds is another interesting one because it was written in this, well, it was originally like a demo I made. It was like very like dashboard confessional sounding.
Mm-hmm.
I had it on MySpace for a little bit. And I think Kyle heard it and he was like, this is cool. Like, why don't we make this electronic or something? And so we brought it into the producer, and Matt Goldman heard it and he was like, no. He's like, let's make this like a radio song. Like, let's, you know, this song is really good. Let's make it like a banger, you know? And so that's kind of what we did. And it was like, there was growing pains because none of us in Drop Dead had put a song out like that in Drop Dead. So it was like, when we put that out, there wasn't as much like bands that were doing a lot of poppy mixed with heavy. Like it wasn't like, you know, Bring Me's record has very poppy stuff and heavy stuff. That stuff wasn't happening back in the day that much. So we're like, man, is this too poppy for our band? You know? And like, I don't know, I guess it wasn't, and it ended up being like a big song on that record. But yeah, we were just like, it was very foreign to us. Like, oh, we're gonna have verses and a structure and like a chorus and a bridge and like, you know, and like that's the song. And we're like, we're not gonna have like 10 extra parts in the song. So everybody was like trying to fight their ADD, be like, oh no,
yeah,
this is just the song. It's chill. Here's the verses. There's the chorus, and like, it's, you know, it's good. So like that's kind of how that one worked out. But it's like that song was very close to never coming out because we all were just like, does this even make sense in this band? But
how did the Underworld soundtrack come through then?
I think like the label owner that we're on, Suretone, Jordan Schur, like I think he had a connection and somehow had a connection to the Nine Inch Nails. Not Trent Reznor, but I think it was the guy that
I think it's Danny Lohner. Yeah, I think Danny Lohner did the remix on this. And I was a big, like, I listened to all three of those records because they treated them like not soundtracks, but like albums. And they're like, we're going to remix these bands and like a lot of emo bands and a lot of rock bands. And it was all produced by like Danny Lohner and Nine Inch Nails and a Perfect Circle team, like Billy Howardell, the guitarist of that band. And like all those were bands that I was into. And so I'm like, oh, this Drop Dead Gorgeous song like fits so perfectly here. And it's like maybe my favorite remix on the record. It's like,
I loved it. I love that like crazy vocal chopping stuff.
Yeah.
And like, it just has that crazy Nine Inch Nails type of vibe to it, which I love. And Yeah, that was cool. We were super pumped when we heard that remix.
Have a producer of Nine Inch Nails to remix your song. I'm like, that's so fucking sick.
It was cool. We actually, that specific song, Two Birds, a long time ago, I think it hadn't been out long. This is right before Sonny started Skrillex. He wanted to remix it. And this is before we recorded our own stuff and had all our stems and everything. And he was like, "Can I get the stems for it?" I was like, "I don't even know what those are, but I can try." Never followed through with it. Could never figure it out. Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this like new project." I think he's like, "It's Skrillex." I don't know if he said the name or something. And I didn't have any idea what he was going to be doing. And I was like, but yeah, we never got it. It would have been so interesting to see what he did with it too, like that could have been a way different trajectory for us or something. But
a Drop Dead Gorgeous Skrillex collaboration.
Sonny's so talented, man. He played guitar on like one song on Worse Than a Fairy Tale, and I was just like had no idea like how talented he was. Like just from an instrumental thing, like he from First to Last did their record right before us or something with the same producer, so they were in the LA area and like hung out with him a little bit. I picked him up one time at his house and he had like an old MacBook and he was like, and it was GarageBand. He was like, "Check this out." And it was basically like the prototype to Skrillex. And I had never heard that before. And I was like, whoa. I was like, "How are you doing that?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Check out." He had like literally had like Boss guitar pedals that he was using for that. And I was like, dude, like that's insane. It's like he's super talented dude. And
yeah, I only got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to toss to little plugs for the rest of your year. You're doing a tour. You're also doing Warped Tour, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're doing 3 dates.
You're doing Are you doing the U.S. dates, or are you doing?
We're doing DC, Orlando, and Long Beach, I think.
Okay, cool. I'll see you at 2 of those, I think. Definitely Orlando. I'm trying to figure out Long Beach, but definitely Orlando.
Yeah. Long Beach, I think, is going to be really good.
That's what everybody says, and I'm like, I didn't go last year. We only did Orlando last year, but
yeah, I feel like every time we play a festival or anything like that, or now all the stuff we do is mainly fly dates, and it's like, yeah, we wake up super early. Last time we played Chicago, we were up at like 3 a.m. and we got to the hotel at like 12.
I think you played during Riot Fest too. Was that the Bless the Fall date? Yeah. And I was like, guys, can't you just play Riot Fest? Like, why are you doing your own show? Just come over here and play this.
Kind of like, man, we're like, should we do this show? Like, is like Riot Fest? How much is that gonna be a problem? I mean, it was still a good show.
Yeah, a lot of people I knew were like, no, I think that was the night of, that was Jack White and someone else, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably why. Like,
I think like Blink-182 played that day or something.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. It was Friday. Yeah, it was Blink. Yeah, well. I hope you come back on a day I can actually go to a show in Chicago, because I was bummed about it. But yeah, you've got a tour this year, right? You've got other stuff.
We have lots of other festivals. I don't think we're doing any touring, but like we got like Sonic Temple, Aftershock. I feel like there's some other ones that I'm missing, but there may be a couple other ones. But yeah, we're kind of playing, like, honestly, like with our schedules being grown-ups and stuff, it's like we kind of try to do something once a month if we can. So we'll be doing festivals, writing, we're still writing. We're going to record in April 5 more songs. We still have some unreleased ones, so we're putting out a single this next Friday. So
hell yeah,
it's more raw. If you're talking about the rawness that you like, it's definitely more raw. So
I've liked everything I've heard so far. Honestly, the 3 new singles I've really liked. So across the board, I'm excited. This will be out. This episode will be out after that's already released. So go listen to that. I don't know if you want to spoil it here, because, obviously no one will hear this until after it's out, but go listen to the song. Go listen to the new song that just came out last week by the time this is out. Yeah. Well, dude, this is so much fun. I really appreciate your time, because I never thought in doing this podcast I would ever speak to some bands, and I think Drop Dead Gorgeous is on that list of like bands I never thought we'd ever like get to hang with and talk to. And hopefully I see you at some date in Chicago, but if not, I'll catch you at Warped Tour this year, and we can hang out and say hi there.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is a great interview. Honestly, I could do this for way longer. So